Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. I ran out of wine. I drank all mine.
It's a bad luck to cheers from an empty glass.
Well, it's done now. Too late.
Coming up on this episode of Raise.
Yeah, and so focused on what you're currently doing as not being enough that you don't just enjoy where you are and you kind of think, oh, I should be doing something more. And it combined what turned out to be just my perfect combination of kind of, I guess, skills that you need for it. I really wanted to achieve, I'd come from this really high achieving background and gone into this really high achieving career, and then it hadn't worked out. There is a sweet spot between being yourself but also knowing when to kind of guide somebody, or the door will open for you when it's the right time for it to open for you. And I kind of, because I feel like I could have achieved all that I have over the last few years but without the angst.
Hello and welcome to Raise, the podcast for fundraisers by fundraisers, where we get around and have all sorts of crunchy conversations. We get to talk about those topics that nobody ever actually tells you about, but everyone sort of expects you to know. So the concept of Raise is that we're sitting around the pub having a conversation that you would rather have not in the office, and you get to pick the brains of all sorts of fantastic people who've kind of been there and are doing that and are constantly learning. I'm Christine Newbiser, your co-host.
And I'm Sian Wilkinson, and today we are joined by Rebecca Allin. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, so my name's Rebecca Allin, and I'm an individual giving campaigns lead, and I've worked in fundraising for about 8 years, and I'm really happy to be here today. I've known Sian for a little while. We've, in fact, worked together twice, and I came back for another go. And so, yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. So before we get started, we need to do a cheers. What are we drinking today, Beck?
We are drinking Peak Pool Pinot.
Pick Pool Penne?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Smooth. Cheers to raising money, voices, and glasses.
Cheers.
And we got a proper glasses, so we got a ching.
Yay.
It's so
To
exciting.
money, voices, and glasses.
So, like you said, we've worked together twice, but I think one of the reasons we were really keen to kind of have you on and to pick your brains on is, and it's a conversation you and me have genuinely had around the pub more than once over many, many glasses of wine over many, many years, which is that kind of career path. And I think so many people fall into fundraising and it's not necessarily like a chosen career for a lot of people. And then it's kind of like, where do you go after you start and how do you get involved? And it's all really confusing. And I think there's not one linear career path. And so did you want to tell us a little bit more about like how you got into fundraising and your background?
Yeah, so I think for me, I wasn't one of those people that came straight out of university and wanted to work for a charity or particularly wanted to work in fundraising. And actually, I originally had my heart set on being a doctor. So I pretty much
like career shift.
Yeah, just a little
deviation then.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And anybody who's ever tried to be a doctor knows that it tends to be about quite all-encompassing process. So you put your heart and soul into it. You take all these exams. You have to really put a lot into it. So I kind of started my journey to wanting to be a doctor when I was about 17. Took all the right A-levels. Didn't get in. Went on to do an undergraduate degree in medical science. Took a year out to be a healthcare assistant for a year. And then I went to do graduate medicine at postgraduate at Nottingham. But when I got there, I just found that it just really wasn't, after all of that, about 7 years or something in total of trying to push towards this career, that just wasn't really what I needed or what was right for me. It just really was not feeling good. I was having mental health issues. It was really rough. And I ended up not passing my first year exams, only by an absolute hair. But but I had no idea what to do after that. I was like completely lost. Even though I knew it was the right thing for me to leave.
Yeah.
It's not really the sort of career that you leave, or it's not really the sort of career that you tell anyone that you left.
Yeah.
So I didn't know anyone who'd had the same experiences. And it really was like a whole loss of kind of identity, because you build so much of your identity around that. And I'd lost my kind of social network because all my student friends were really awkward around me.
Yeah,
so
they were like, you're not one of us anymore.
Yeah, I think a little, because it is such a strong, people
Yeah.
identify with being a medical student, which sounds a bit over the top, but I think that's how it is.
No, I get that. I used to ride horses professionally before I started fundraising, and professional horseback riders, like that's a clique. That is a thing.
I would say fundraisers are a clique though, as well.
How funny I found my way in.
So I think any profession can like definitely be like, this is our identity. This is what we do. So I totally can see that.
And especially when, like what you're referring to as well, I think, that would have required so much sacrifice, the training, the commitment, that I think that kind of, it almost makes that, it necessitates you putting everything into it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you can't do it.
It's all encompassing.
Yeah. And it's the universe that you exist in where everybody is going through the same or similar thing that you're going through. So you have an instant sort of connection. You don't have to work to build that. And then when you step outside of that, they're like, but you don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And that's very hard. So why fundraising?
Well, so then I left and was at a complete loss, like, 24 years old, no idea what I was doing. My only experience was that 1 year I had as a healthcare assistant. That was all my working world experience. And so I knew I wanted to help people and was like, I need to channel that compassion into something now that I'm not going to do that. So I started being a support worker for older people in care homes for a couple of years. And after that, I realized, which is mad because I wanted to be a doctor at one point, that maybe front-facing support work wasn't really for me.
That's a tough gig.
Yeah.
Support work is very difficult.
Yeah.
Like bravo for doing it for years. Like it's such a challenging thing. It's such a challenging field to be in.
Massively. I've got so much respect for it. For people who go on to do it long term. My other colleagues were amazing. But, at the end of that, I just thought it's too intense for me. I really sort of struggled with it. And so again, we thank the world, the universe, for not making me a doctor, because if I couldn't be a support worker in terms of that level of engagement with people. So then I had to start again. And then I came across I came across a job as an administrator, and from there I went into being an assistant in a fundraising team, and the rest is history. But that was at the ripe old age of 25, which isn't that old, but at the time it felt like I was really behind.
Yeah,
because I was really starting kind of at that bottom of the ladder when all my friends had already had 4 years under their belt.
Yeah,
but yeah, that was the beginning of the fundraising journey.
And today I saw you put out on LinkedIn your first fundraising TV advert went live today.
That's so exciting.
It's so good. It's really
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I definitely teared up a little bit. It was quite poignant, I think.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, it's the Marie Curie Daffodil Appeal campaign.
Amazing.
And I think it really brings back the meaning of the daffodil, because I guess the campaign has become so big and it's synonymous with Marie Curie, but that reminder of this is why we do the daffodil appeal, and this is why this is really important, and this is the real life stories behind why you fundraise. I thought it was fantastic. I sent it to my leadership team. I was like, this is great.
Should we link it in the show notes?
We can link it in the show notes.
Link it in the show notes when we put this out.
Just in the short time, to go from kind of not knowing you wanted to be a fundraiser to having your first job in fundraising to having your first national campaign TV advert and taking a year out to go traveling.
Yeah.
When did you do that?
In 2023 to 2024. Took a year out to do some backpacking because I just clearly thought that, I'm taking the scenic route anyway. So.
But I think this is really important, right? Because a lot of times when people are starting out in their careers, and as Sean said at the beginning, not many people come out of uni or go into uni knowing they want to be a fundraiser, except for Sean.
Yeah.
Who is probably the only person that I know that this has been true of. But so most of the time you kind of start and it's you've been doing something else. You kind of fall into fundraising. You usually start at an assistant or an admin or coordinator of some team level, right? And you're just trying to learn the craft. and kind of understand this is what storytelling is, this is what fundraising is, this is the type of fundraising I'm doing, why it's different. And nobody, unless they're working in fundraising, really understands exactly what you do. And everyone's trying to equate it to the private sector consistently when you talk to anybody and you're like, it doesn't really translate, does it?
It's when you're filling out online forms and like it's never an
Can't
option.
find it.
Yeah.
I always put sales.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it's like the closest
Yeah.
It is the closest
thing.
or marketing. But marketing's different.
Mm.
Yeah, it's tough because it's not represented anywhere. And so then when you're trying to talk about it with anybody, that's really tricky. And it feels like when hard to shift. But you have, so can you talk about the type of fundraising that you've gotten into and why you kind of fell into this space?
Yeah, so I started doing my kind of, I guess, I'm now more or less 50-50, but at one point, the bulk of my fundraising experience was more in community, which...
Sean's bread and butter.
Yeah.
It was community innovation as well, which is just like a cracking job team to work
It
in.
was really good. And it combined what turned out to be just my perfect combination of kind of, I guess, skills that you need for it, which, again, I always think it's a shame no one talks about these things when you're at school, because if I'd have known that this job existed that was the perfect combination, you know, obviously I have zero regrets about exploring other careers, and I think it's made me who I am now. But equally, you know, basically I really like spreadsheets and analysing things, and I also like being creative. And it was just I feel like fundraising is just the best combination of both of those.
Yeah.
And so community fundraising is very kind of, it's just so like lively, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really accessible, I think,
Yeah.
as like a fundraising career. Like if you're just moving into fundraising as well, it's like, can you inspire people? Yeah, community fundraising is a great one.
I think it's really, I think too, it doesn't really get its dues, especially in some of the bigger organizations, because you end up, when you're in certain regions, like you end up having a corporate pipeline, you end up having like local major donors. So you end up kind of going across all the different income streams under the umbrella of community fundraising.
I was going to say, I will stake my claim on this.
Yeah.
And it's not against any other, my team are going to kill me. It's not to go against any other income streams, but community fundraising is truly the income stream where you do everything. You work with major donors, you work with corporates, you work on marketing, you work on storytelling, you work on advertising, you work on individual giving, you work on campaigns, you work on stewardship, you work on lifetime value. Like you do everything that you could possibly imagine from any other income stream, bar maybe legacy admin.
And trust.
No,
there are community trusts, actually. I did work in an organization. We had a community trust officer. So they sat in the community fundraising team.
But you're still writing pitches.
Yeah.
Like you're still writing for, so yeah, like I'll stake my claim on that. I think community fundraisers are multifaceted and do not get their due of like the talent they bring.
It's very much the kind of, I think of it as kind of the like lifeblood of fundraising in terms of all those veins of fundraising. They go out into the community. They kind of, those are the roots.
Yeah. Another
Another metaphor of.
I love an analogy though. I use them all the time.
That's what spreads around the country, and that's what anchors, you know, a charity in the local community and really means something to people. And I think that's kind of really helpful to have that understanding. And now I work in individual giving, which is feels less connected to those kind of community roots, but it also has that kind of, it's fascinating on that kind of large scale of seeing how a population behaves en masse instead of.
It really is like a study in
individual.
human behavior.
Massively, yeah.
Yeah.
I used to explain community in my very first director job. The community fundraising team, which is how I met Sean, the community fundraising team was struggling a little bit in their ROI. However, what was really clear was that the community fundraising team really was sort of like the handshake. I used to call it like the handshake to the all other income, because that was how so many supporters were like coming in, getting to know the organization. They were like signing up to do something or to fundraise, or they wanted to do something in their local community. And that was really like how you then built everything else. The foundations really came from that. And so it made it completely indispensable when it came to how are you growing your foundations.
I think it was really interesting as well. Like, I think you made a judgment call earlier on to move to IG than I did. And I think it was really well warranted, because I feel like I did community fundraising for so long, specifically like events fundraising, for like 6 or 7 years, and then did community, like wider community fundraising for a bit and innovation. And then I just felt like I kind of got to that head of level and I got really stuck, because there's so few directors of community fundraising or events fundraising. Like I can think of very, very few charities that have specifically those roles. And so actually at that point as a community fundraiser, you're almost like forced to diversify out your experience. Because otherwise you're just stuck and you can't get anywhere. And there's very few directors of fundraising that have community like just pure community fundraising background.
That's true. But I would say that supporter-led fundraising, as the cool kids now call it, is getting bigger.
Yeah, there's a director of Eric that's supporter-led. Yeah.
There's a couple others, I think, that are that now, but that's not necessarily like full-on, exec director of fundraising. But I mean, I think that's also true of trust. I mean, my background's in trust fundraising, which there's not a ton of directors who their background is in trust fundraising, because it's kind of seen as the really boring fundraising. It's really great. I love trust fundraising. Everyone should do it. But it's a very different skill set than community fundraising. And so I remember when I started and I hired Sean to do a mat cover, and I was like, she was talking to me about getting people on the console for an event. And I was like, I have not a clue what you were talking about. Literally no idea.
It was like London Marathon or something.
She was like, we have to get these people on the console for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, cool. Have we talked to them? Like, I only know about like journeys when we are talking about like how we talk to them. I have no idea what you're talking about.
The journey is great, but London Marathon won't issue them a race number, which is more of a problem right now. So let's prioritize.
It was really like I had to go through such an education, because I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
And sorry, we interrupted you. So you then moved into IG.
Yeah. Which I've really loved doing as well. And I feel like it's a different application of, and I feel like, if I may say this, I feel like a lot of fundraising feels like different applications of a sort of core skill set, which is really something that you really refine over time, and that kind of experience and that instinct that I feel like does also transfer. I know you were both saying that you come from different backgrounds, but it feels like you're brilliant at your jobs running sort of larger departments that contain all these other elements, and you can understand those through those kind of instincts that you've learned over the years.
I guess I think all fundraising comes down to the human experience, right? So you are trying to get people in whatever guise to support a cause or to part with their money, but not to get something tangible back, which is why it's so much harder than sales, right? Because you're trying to get
selling
them
a good feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And that fundamentally comes from understanding what people value, what they care about. And for different people, that's different things. And that's like when you have your individual giving products, or you're designing the campaigns, or like the heart, like what you're going to pull on, or what people are going to gravitate towards, because they're going to decide to play a lottery instead of giving £5 a month. Something different is pulling them. Ultimately, they want to be supporting Mary Curie, or they want to be supporting the RNLI, or whatever charity it is that they're going to support. But the product that engages them is going to be different because of what they care about.
Yeah. You have to really understand people, I think, as well as, I think it balances out, you've got that more analytical side, but you've also just got to really be a people person, whether that's being one of those amazing community fundraisers who just talk to people all day, every day, which I'm in awe of.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in individual giving behind the scenes. But that kind of, whether it's that or whether it is just the kind of really good sort of psychology understanding of people. And I feel like that's where it just kind of goes to show a little bit, I guess, on the theme of what we're talking about today, about how you can, those skills that you get from other careers, even if that's within fundraising, it's moving into other areas of fundraising, or nothing's ever wasted. And those same sort of skills that were useful for being a doctor also turned out to be useful for being a fundraiser, which is just, you wouldn't think that they would translate, but nothing's ever wasted.
Yeah.
And I wanted to pull out something I thought you said earlier, which I think is really poignant, which was like, you felt like you were behind. You felt like you were behind everyone else. I kind of feel like everybody feels a bit like that. Like I remember kind of like my first head of job, and I was like in my mid-20s, like late 20s. But I was like, oh no, I've got here really quickly. Like I'm like, I'm like going, like my career is like gaining momentum, blah, blah, blah. And like, I'd kind of say like the last 8 years, I feel like I've stalled quite a lot. And like, it's very much that head of level, like roles that I've loved and like amazing experience that I've got. But like, it's also like hard not to look at other people and go, like, by the time Christine was my age, she was doing her first director role. And I like look at, and it's so easy to like look at that and go like, oh, I'm behind, like I'm not there yet. But I also know that I don't think I'm like, wouldn't be ready to walk into a director role, or at least not like a kind of the level of director role that I would like. I wouldn't be ready to walk into that tomorrow yet. So, but yeah, I think it's like it's a really poignant thing of like, I think loads of people feel like that.
Yeah.
But then if everybody's feeling like that, then we're just comparing ourselves to each other.
And sometimes you're exactly where you should be, and it's the wisdom not to necessarily be always striving for something that's, and I think definitely sort of something that's more senior, but I think and I definitely think as I've kind of come into my early 30s, because, I'm, also, I would never be looking at a director role at this point in my career. I'm quite a few rungs away from that. And I remember looking at Sian, who's only a couple of years older than me, and just thinking, she's just absolutely smashing it, which again just goes to show that you never know how somebody's feeling inside.
Yeah.
But also, the me of 8 years ago wouldn't even believe that I'm where I am now.
Yeah.
And have, quotes, caught up, which isn't, there is no catching up. There is no kind of.
There's just being where you need to be.
100%. Yeah.
And also like job title isn't really everything, especially in this sector. You can be a director of a person, right? Like it doesn't necessarily mean having a job title doesn't necessarily mean that you're operating at a different level than somebody else. Job titles can mean different levels of accountability that you might have within an organization, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are operating at a higher or lower level than somebody else is operating at. And so I think it's really important to kind of recognize wherever you are in your journey, as long as you are enjoying it and learning and there's a purpose to why you're there, that's a good thing. And that means it's still serving you.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole purpose.
I completely agree. And I think and it's nice sometimes just to not be kind of, I don't know, making you feel like you're not good enough. Whereas actually you can say, well, I'm exactly where I need to be. And somehow I've found myself back around, and I've, found myself working for a healthcare charity and had this kind of full circle moment where when I was doing that TV ad, all of this medical stuff came back to me of stuff that I was aware that needed to be done because I had experience of it. I mean, I couldn't answer the medical questions, but I knew that the medical questions needed to be asked.
Right.
Because of my personal experience. And, I had experience of how people have been emotionally in those environments and, the difference between a nurse and a healthcare assistant. I knew that very well. Yeah. Those sorts of things that I was able to guide the process from that perspective in a way I would never have imagined.
And it
would have
makes
happened.
the service staff appreciate it so much more because they feel
seen as part of the process.
Heard and part of the, exactly.
Yeah.
And I know so many fundraisers that like have law degrees that have like not gone into law, like things like that.
I was the only person on my course at uni that didn't become a lawyer.
So because Sian, you're unique because you went into university knowing you wanted to be a fundraiser. And we talked about this on our very first episode way back in the day. But let's talk about you.
I guess like going into uni doesn't feel quite right. I think what I would say is like I'd fundraised a lot as a child, like, and I really do mean as a child. Like I was that kid with like the swimathons, and I even found like I posted it on our Raise socials, like my year 6, I had like a certificate because I'd raised money for the IT suites.
I saw that.
That's so cute.
But I was like that kid, and I was the kid like at school, like I could have only been, it was junior school, so I must have only been like 7 or 8. And I used to like count all the RNLI stamps and things to like send them off. Like I was just really invested. Like I just really loved this idea of like giving back and like involving myself and like charity. And like, again, like as Beck said, like I didn't really feel like fundraising was a career at that point. And then I took a gap year and I worked for a school because I thought I wanted to be a teacher. At that point, I wanted to be a primary school teacher. I would not have been a good primary school teacher. And I'm forever grateful, exactly as you said, like that I did the year, like again, like so much respect for teachers. Like it's not for me.
Yeah.
There's a reason I don't have children.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine a career I'd be less great at.
But I over the summer of my gap year, I went to go and work for a charity out in Hong Kong. Who do like emergency and disaster response, which was amazing. And then I went to uni, and I really vividly remember, like we were driving up to university. My parents were in the front of the car, I was in the back, and my dad was like looking through like one of the freshers fair, like back in the day when you used to get paid for things, one of the freshers fair brochures, and he was like, "Oh, there's this like RAG, like Raising and Giving Society." He was like, "You'd really enjoy that," and I was like, "Yeah, I would. Like, I'd really love that." And so I went and signed up at the freshers fair. And then I just got really involved from there and just fell in love with it and joined. So I did loads of fundraising in my first year. And me and my friends did this thing called Bogle, which is like a 55-mile walk around Manchester, which was great. And you get sponsored for it. And I should have said as well, like I was always fundraising when I was younger because my brother went to a special needs school. And so they always needed money. So my mum was like the treasurer of the committee. And so we used to go to like the local fair every year. And then we used to like hold fundraising events at the school and things like that. So like it's always like around fundraising.
Yeah.
And I just absolutely fell in love with it. Joined the RAG committee in my second year. Did my internship at Bernardo's between my second and my third year. Because by that point I was like, I know this is what I want to do. And I just want to get into it by the time like I graduate. And I continued on the committee for my final year working with volunteers, and then I did my first student fundraising role for like 14 months, taking students to go and hike up things like Kilimanjaro. I took 40 students from Nottingham Trent University up Kilimanjaro. It's the worst thing I've ever
that sounds
done. They were all 18, they were all first years. It was awful.
Wow, that sounds awful. Kilimanjaro sounds cool actually.
Kilimanjaro is great. And then like I just fell in love with it, and then I've worked in charity ever since, or fundraising ever since, but I can't imagine doing anything else. But it was like a very, very like deliberate decision of like, this is what I want to do. Like, I know I really enjoy doing this. I love doing it. I loved like when we were at RAG, we used to hold this end of year like celebration with all the charities that we'd fundraised for and like present checks to them. And I was always like, what jobs have you got going? Like, how can I get a job in charity when I graduate? I was like, please tell me all of the things. But then I still have moments now. Like I had a moment during COVID actually after the first time we worked together, and my mat cover came to an end 2020. And I remember I turned 30. Like I had these like 6 weeks where I was unemployed, and I turned 30 during this. And there was something about turning 30 unemployed in the middle of a pandemic that just felt like, it felt like quite a big moment. I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing in my career anymore. And I genuinely really seriously considered retraining as an accountant. And I think that's like the first time I ever had a moment where I was like, I think maybe I should do something else. But I think it's just because the charity sector felt so uncertain.
Yeah, it was uncertain.
At that
was
time.
A really tough time.
But I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I'm still here, and I can't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah.
So
I think it's really great. It's really inspirational for, to hear those things from some, like, again, to know all that's possible. If you're somebody just starting out from uni, kind of heard that and thought, how can I get into fundraising? It's really great to kind of hear how you first started out in it. In those, they weren't small ways. I was not doing that 2021, but I was doing other things.
You were becoming a doctor, which is very impressive.
Trying to. I'm going out a lot.
I do think, though, along that, the charity sector and the fundraising sector, I think in particular, isn't always the most open to people who are shifting in careers. And I think as a sector, we could do better at recognizing those transferable skills. I think we're better at seeing it from different types of fundraising. I think that's something that's kind of a lot clearer for people. Whoops.
It's the problem with having real glasses.
I'm like, what's a bell? I do think that that's something that as a sector we could improve on, is like when people are moving over from the private sector, how do we recognize the skills that they bring, and you use them for our advantage, because we sometimes are being left behind the private sector because of lack of investment and the nature of charities and of funding. And so I think those are really valuable assets that we could improve upon too.
So if you were looking back at like 24, 25-year-old Beck now, like what would you want her to know? Like what is it that you kind of feel like now that you're like, oh, I just really wish I'd felt like safe or comfortable? Or...
Yeah, I think it was a very fraught time. I think I've always been a bit of an anxious person anyway, but I remember just feeling I really wanted to achieve. You know, I'd come from this really high achieving background and gone into this really high achieving career, and then it hadn't worked out, and I just felt really kind of just really anxious about how things would turn out. It all felt really unknown. And I wish I could kind of go back now and just kind of, as I was saying earlier a little bit, just sort of the feeling that you are exactly where you need to be, and every step that you take will be the right one. If it feels right, the door will open for you when it's the right time for it to open for you. And I kind of, because I feel like I could have achieved all that I have over the last few years, but without the angst.
Right.
You know? I could have just trusted that it was going to be fine.
It's trust the process.
It is really hard.
Trust the process.
Well, yeah, because it looked so messy at the time. It looked really overwhelming.
It is messy though.
I think life's messy though, so it's
Lean
kind of
in.
okay that careers feel, and like something you and me have talked about like a lot, that everybody doesn't have linear career paths, and it's okay to kind of like go left, right, and center and try things and see how they go. And I think we've talked about this on a previous episode, but I think it's so easy to get worried about what your CV looks like, or like how somebody might perceive your CV, that you end up like not loving your jobs.
Yeah, and so focused on what you're currently doing as not being enough that you don't just enjoy where you are, and you kind of think, oh, I should be doing something more. I should be promoted. Something should be more than that. And that's not to say it's not good to have aspirations, of course, but I think it's kind of feeling a sense of peace for where you're at. So yeah, I think I wish I could have told myself at that age that it was all going to work out, and also that nothing was, and I've already said this as well, but nothing was wasted, you know, none of that, nothing that I did has come to nothing, because as I mentioned, some of those stuff has come around now and been really useful for me in my career, like completely unexpectedly. So I think it all works out how it's supposed to. So
yeah, I think the point you just said about like, it's not to say to not have aspirations, but appreciate where you are. It's one of the things I really wish somebody had helped me understand. I don't know if it would have changed what I did, but I wish I would have understood it better, is as you progress in your career in levels, in particular, you get further and further away from the thing that you fell in love with and why you started fundraising, because you end up, then it's like how you're talking to trustees, like your skill set that you have to do starts to shift. And I think if you're somebody who finds so much joy out of the actual craft of fundraising, it's just something to be quite mindful of as you, it's not to say to not progress, absolutely, because we need fundraising leaders who understand the craft better and who get it. Like that's so critical, and who are actually good fundraisers and so can lead better teams. But it's important to kind of understand that there is a give and take in that development, which I don't know is that's just known.
And also that you never really feel ready to be a leader.
No, you just do it.
There's definitely, and like you make mistakes, and I think there's owning that mistake that is really important. But I think you always second guess yourself as a line manager. You always think you could have done things better. You always look back and go, oh, I wish I'd said that, or I wish I'd done that. Like there's things that I look back on like 5 years still, and I'm like, oh, I really wish I'd done that better.
3 o'clock in the morning?
4 normally,
on repeat.
On repeat.
What was so because Beck, you were on our advent calendar, and you had a really, really great thing that you learned the hard way so that other people don't have to. Could you just recap what that was?
So mine was about being authentic, which I think is kind of it's all similar kind of lessons over the last few years of just kind of being okay with who you are and where you are. And it was about how I've been a manager now for a couple of years, but when I first started out, I kind of thought there was only one way. What a great parallel to what we're talking about, how there's only one way to have a career. I thought there was only one way to be a manager, which was super assertive, super kind of almost like over the top authoritative. And I just didn't really, and I tried it out for a bit and it just,
That's
it wasn't great.
Having known you for a whole 40 minutes, I'm really surprised that didn't work out for you.
Having known you for 6 years, I knew that wasn't going to work out for you.
Funnily enough, it's not very befitting of my true personality, but I didn't know that there was a way to be a manager that was another way. And I definitely think working with Sian, I remember she was really encouraging of this, and I'd kind of listened to, I think maybe listened to podcasts or something about kind of what leadership looks like, and I thought, well, okay, I'll just try being a bit more, I'll take what felt like a risk to me and be more myself. And just got way better results.
Yeah.
You know, I think, but it has taken time. I would say, like, I don't think it's something that you're doing wrong if you haven't got there yet. I think it's something that is a bit of trial and error, because there is a sweet spot between being yourself, but also knowing when to kind of guide somebody or set boundaries or things like that. And I think it takes a bit of time, especially, you know, I'm a gentler person, so I did need to lean into my version of what authority looked like, but it just didn't need to be that one size fits all kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's something around, like, and I've kind of like learned this over my career as well, which is around you almost like need to reset sometimes. Like, I think you can be so like not you personally, sorry, just and me. This is actually, I'm actually talking about myself. You can be like really warm and like encouraging, and so then when you do have to have those really tough conversations, you do have to put some of those boundaries in, and you do have to do some of that, like, actually, do you know what, this wasn't great, like what I do need from you is X, Y, and Z. Is it can feel so jarring to your team, like owning that and just being like, actually, I need to have a difficult conversation with you, and this doesn't change how I respect you or see our relationship, but you do need to hear this feedback, because actually it is going to help you moving forward, and people aren't always going to like that, but it's your job.
Your job is not to be liked, your job is to lead. Sometimes
I would like to be liked as well.
I know you would.
It's definitely the interview feedback that I get the most, is that I don't demonstrate that authoritative side in an interview process, because I very much am like, the strengths I bring are my warmth, you know, the way I have respect and compassion for my colleagues. But I think the thing that I do in practice, but the thing I find hard to articulate in that interview kind of format is how I do that kind of firmer side. And so I think it's definitely something to kind of learn how to harness that as well.
Yeah. And it's a skill to learn how to talk about it in an interview as well.
Another skill we should do an episode on how to do interview well.
That would be. Yeah. But yeah, that's a whole other.
I'd listen to that.
A whole other thing. But learning where you're struggling when you are moving through your career, however squiggly it might be, learning how to answer some of those challenging questions that always kind of trip you up. And we all have them. We all have like certain types of questions that just kind of hit us, and we have to, learning the skill of the answer is very critical in that space.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So one of the questions we ask everybody at the end of every episode is that if there was one thing someone could take away from this episode that you wanted to make sure they heard, what would it be?
I think for me, it would be go easy on yourself. You are where you need to be. You're doing what you need to be doing, and have faith in yourself, have faith that you're making the right choices. And even though I know that's easier said than done, but I think just have compassion on yourself, because, you know, you shouldn't feel that pressure, because your journey is your journey, and it might not look the same as everyone else's, but that's okay.
Yeah. And you can have a hugely successful fundraising career, just like you.
Well, exactly.
Hey, you know what? I started when I was 25 on my fundraising career. So
25 is the age.
Yeah.
25 is the age.
And you have an epic career of being a professional horse rider, that's unique.
It is unique. I don't know. I don't know how valuable it is in fundraising, but it's a skill.
No, there's definitely transferable skills.
Staying on even when it feels tough. That is the transferable skill.
She summed it up.
Yes. Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us find other amazing fundraisers out in the sector. You can find us on Instagram at Raise Charity Pod and also on our website, which is thisisraise.co.uk. But for now, here's to raising money, voices, and glasses. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.